What is up YouTube, and welcome back to another season and episode of Oxygen Not Included. This is the first episode in season 2. We did have a first season going back 40 odd episodes. Unfortunately that ended due to a game crash due to too many mods. This one has been cleared up much more and the settings are as follows on the screen. Most things on default, and we'll see how we go. The idea is to go to multiple planets. This is the spaced out edition with a few mods that will be mentioned within the description. Going into duplicant selection, and I'll do what I always do, which is the first one will be a builder, the second one will be a digger, and the third one will be research. There is probably better things to do than that, and please feel free to let me know what you do, but I always like to try and have one dedicated to the two main things. They'll all be digging and likely building, mainly at the start. Got some good rolls there though, 7 construction for the builder, 10 excavation for the digger, and 9 science for the science researcher, so that's good. Calling the name is of course going to be Let's Play Season 2, as we are in Season 2. Okay, over to the world and let's get digging. Firstly, both left and right, and try and make some sort of structure here. All of my bases seem to be sort of the same plan. I build like a segmented base with a couple of central lines for the ladders, and in the future there will be the poles as well. Also try and get the water in one location to make sort of a water tank for the clean water. I do the same for the dirty water, polluted water. This is the first time I'm playing this with my new setup. So from last series, this is now fully 4K. So hopefully it should be nice and crisp for you regardless of how big the screen is you're watching on. This game has been chosen based on the poll that I've got on my YouTube channel for which games I play that you prefer. Along with Universe Sim, this one is reaching the top, so I thought you have asked and I will oblige. So just changing a few settings here, mainly for the volume. We don't want to be blown out by the volume for the game, but I don't want to get rid of the sound effects as well. It's the music that I'm not interested in listening to. As soon as we've got a bit of space opened up on both sides, one side I'll make a bedroom, or at least put some beds down, cots, and the other side I'll chuck the toilets and the sinks to allow the duplicants to sleep and then relieve themselves. Very important, you don't want them relieving themselves in your base because that releases the polluted water and therefore polluted oxygen as well. Of course, once you've got these built, you really want to get them into a room. Rooms are important because rooms dictate your morale. Your morale dictates how happy your duplicants are doing their specific tasks, jobs, chores, etc. And the easiest morale boost to get is the bedroom, because all you need to do is put a cot in a room. The room has to be sealed with a door, and then the bathroom again is the same but with toilets and sinks, and that'll give 1 morale as well. Obviously multiple bathrooms gives multiple morale, but at the beginning a couple of morale is more than sufficient to start off and just get your basics done. Starting to move down now from our printer, specifically just to figure out now what size these rooms are going to be. Now I believe they're going to be 4 high. I like to do 4 high rooms, specifically because it gives the maximum they can reach. They can't reach the 5th to do the ceiling, but obviously that will be a floor for another level, so they'll do it from there. And then the rooms will probably go out sort of 11 to 12, so you'll have like a 44 size room to start with. We'll have bigger and smaller rooms depending on what we need them for, but at the very start I like to keep it very symmetrical, and I don't know, just I like the pattern, it's what I do, and I like to keep control over it so that I know what I need to do. Also, building too quickly is dangerous because you will spread out your oxygen far too quick. I haven't played this game in a while since that last major crash, and of course what I'm not doing now is looking at oxygen, and that will bite me in the backside very shortly. This isn't the easiest setting, so you do need to make sure that your duplicants have plenty of oxygen, but also that they keep clean and warm, or cold depending on what environment you're in. And you may or may not see me, but there is a lot of times where I'm zooming out and looking at the heat, the thermometer in this setting to the top right hand corner, just to see where the cold and heat is coming in, because if I need to build into that I will need insulated tiles first, and I haven't researched them as yet. In fact, I haven't researched anything yet. This is still the start of the game items that you do start with. Making a bit of a mess moving forward, trying to just get this water sorted out. Very often, though, I find that I do this. I make a mess and have to mop up a few bits before I've actually got it to what I want. This, at the minute, is my source of water, but very quickly it will be removed. I also need to pick a side for the power spine. I'm not sure how many people know what that is, so I'll explain it just in case. But really all it is a straight spine that goes down the side of your base, left or right, doesn't really matter. And it's where you put your main power cable. You then have a power station at the bottom, middle or top of it. And then all you need to do is when you need power for a floor is run it from that spine across. The spine and the area where the power stations are separated from your base, so any heat or carbon dioxide, anything bad will not affect your base, but your base will get the power from that. And building this sort of design that I'm doing now, it makes it very easy. It's a bit like Lego building, to be honest. And then when you just build a new floor, you just chuck in a platform for the power line, and in it goes. Another print available, and this is the second since we've been playing. The first I ignored, or at least by ignored I mean I picked something other than a duplicant. I picked food. This time I'm going to pick a duplicant. Southern Athletics is good for somebody that can do a bit of tidying up and flicking switches, move around a bit quicker, and we are prepared for that. That means an extra bed and an extra toilet, but that's not too difficult to do. However, the cycle is about to end into the cycle 3. Sorry, is about to end, and of course that's not going to get built in time, so they'll have to wait until cycle 4 to get their bed. We'll also then sort out the bathroom situation. Lightly separate it into 2 bathrooms of 2 of each so that we get the morale boost, plus there's more space and everybody gets their own fair share. As soon as we get into the plumbing side of it, we will of course do the proper toilets with a shower room, etc. And I like to spread them about as well, because the bedrooms are dependent, but I always like to have bathrooms near the bedrooms because that's where a duplicant is going to sleep, and therefore as soon as they wake up they likely will need the toilet, and before they go to bed they'll also need the toilet. Just a test on the base so far for oxygen saturation, and then the rooms as well, and you saw both of them rooms are triggering, so both the bedroom and the toilet, and that's 2 morale. We can of course increase that as we move forward. The next thing I do is open the doors. This is entirely up to you, but basically the doors are doing nothing. They are not restricting any gases because I don't want them to, but they have to be there to count it as a room. So as soon as I put them down, I force them open, and then it still counts as a room because there is a door there, but because it's forced open, the duplicants are not slowed down at all, and it acts like there is no door there. So as you can see them running through, it causes no issues at all with speed. They don't have to wait or anything, but it still counts it as a room, so that's what I like to always do. And then here you can see I'm just leveling things out to make sure this is the size that I've picked. So now both going up and down, I will match this. Some rooms can be double the height, but I'll also always aim to keep the width the same until a bit further on, basically because it's just symmetrical. You'll see as I go along that it becomes very, very symmetrical, and I think I'm not the only one that's doing this right. It's not unique to me. A lot of YouTubers are doing it this way with their mega bases and stuff. Always start off with the sort of very structured grid-like base. And now I'm just continuing to build down up until I hit something that, like a temperature change or this gas is in the way, etc., and then I'll probably like to build up. I'm using all the space I can without any sort of aggravation of such. Currently I'm building the infrastructure for both the musher to make our food, which is crap food, but it's food nevertheless, and people need to eat, duplicants especially. And then a couple of batteries and a running mill, which is our first part of the power. Now then, batteries are actually in quite a crap place. I did that when playing, but the batteries do give off heat, so really I am going to move them next time I go on the game somewhere less lightly. I think if I actually move them into the room where the power thing is, I might be able to turn it into a room of its own. There is a mod that I've installed that gives extra rooms, and one of them is a gym, and I think that counts, but we'll see. I'll have a look. So as we go down, there is the inevitable problem about that puddle of water that really isn't any sort of pattern that I want it to be in. It's in the way. We need to waste as little as possible, but get it somewhere nice and neat to work with our grid. It will end up in the centre, most likely. And I'll need to make probably a couple of floors deep to make the tank big enough to support it. And then that water there on the left will have to be brought over too. This structure I'm just chucking in now is to get underneath there, and then you can see that we'll use the ladders as a scaffolding in order to be able to actually dig out that area. As soon as we've got this bit done, we'll be able to look at building around that water source. Of course, the research bench going in, I'm going to put it straight under there because it's cheaper, because the cable's only like 4 bricks long. And then we'll get some basic research happening, which should help us out. We need to be able to move the food box. Because putting the food box in a carbon dioxide or non-oxygenated area will make the food last longer. Also stop germs if you put it in something like chlorine or something. So we'll get that moved down. We also need mess tables for them to eat, so that they're not just eating wherever they like, which will improve their mood as well. But also the room that you create, which is the mess hall from them, is another morale boost. So it's all positive, really. And then from there we'll look at getting pumps, liquid pumps, gas pumps, and then go into the actual proper toilets and sinks and showers. I believe are all connected to the same research tab. As mentioned earlier on, I think it was here that I realised, I realised that the oxygen is running a bit low. Dark blue is not great, although it's not deadly, it's not great. We have no oxygen at all, so I'll get a couple of the oxygenizers down, and all they need is power and algae, yes, which I've got on my side. You can see their resources. Algae and coal are the only things I'm looking at the minute. Algae for this reason, to make sure that we can have oxygen. Coal for the next step, which would be the power source, because we're going to have coal burners. We can't have wood burners because we don't have any wood. So we'll be using that coal to create power as soon as we can. And very quickly I'll go into the automated power situation where we only power when we need it, and then the smart batteries will turn it off when they are full, to make sure all of our resources are as efficient as possible, let's say it that way. It also depends on what other things we're going to do. That's mostly based on what you guys ask for or want to see. Anything I'll try. I do know a lot of various different automations that we can do, but it just depends on how we build and what we get. I.e. what we've got on the planet. Does it have oil? Does it have various other things? If it doesn't, then we have to go somewhere else. But obviously if your starter planet has oil, as long as you can sort out the temperatures quite nicely, you can get it as a good fuel and a resource for plastic quite early on, which makes your first planetoid beneficial. If you don't and you have to fly on a rocket to get it, that becomes a bit more complex. So a little bit further on, you can see we've now got down to the bottom where that water is. Managed to make it a little bit wider so that it doesn't overflow, but we're going to have to work on that. And then because of that and the temperature also increasing, going further down, I have moved upwards and put a sort of a blueprint up there for them to give them something to do. There is a lot of work there for them to do, but at the same time there is also a lot of oxygen trapped where all of them light bulbs are. So it's positive all around. But you can see as we go down it starts to warm up, so I'm actually moving up, just touching the cold areas, top right hand corner there. But it is 11 degrees, so although it looks bad, it's not as bad as it sounds, and that is something I can mitigate with the build. And by the time we get there, I will be very confident that we will have the isolated tiles. So I was in this mode here looking, I'm just getting rid of some entomb stuff, but that is our chest for goods that give off toxic fumes like your organics and stuff, or any polluted oxygen. And obviously if you put that underwater they can't gas off, and therefore you won't have a problem. The eggshells don't gas off, I know that, but I just put them there because they just feel like a dirty to me, don't know why. But what I was actually looking for was a location of the spine. The right hand side's very awkward though with that geyser there, and also the rock is not diggable by it as. So that, although it's been marked, me going over there is not going to work for us. So another print is available, and we're going to go for Rowan, I would say. Rowan has good agriculture, cuisine and machinery. He can't build, but that's not a problem because the rest of them can. But having good agriculture and cuisine is always a good backup for when we move forward with a farm, which will be very soon, because you get the farm tiles along with the first couple of researches that you do. So nice and easy. Okay, we've got gas pumps. I'm just clicking on them to remove the exclamation marks, because I do like for it to remind me, because I sometimes do research and then forget about it because I don't need it quite yet, and then come back and think, what did I do? So I like to keep the board clear so that I know that when a research pops up, I know what's new and what's old. Oxygen generation is popping up again. That's because the power situation is the problem. We're not having somebody running on that wheel enough, so I can increase that priority for the person that we actually got. Right, the 4th person we had was for that. The 5th person is a backup for farming and cooking, and we'll set them up for that. But as it stands at the minute, we've got a nice little infrastructure. You can see that all of the rooms are kind of the same size. I'm going to replicate yet another bathroom, which will give us another morale, but also the ability to cover the 5 people that we have, and then a 6th as soon as we're available. You can do it one by one. I've done the beds that way. It's up to 6, and then when I get to 6, I'll move for the 7th, and I'll do probably up to 8 or 10, and just keep going like that. But I like to spread them out a bit so that, depending on what jobs people are doing, they have the ability to get there quicker, and they're not having to travel hundreds and hundreds of blocks to do something that's quite simple. And then my other thing that I always do is this center column I use as my resources column or utility, and I put a chest on either side of there, so that wherever you are, you're always within the vicinity of a chest. That's not to take the goods that you need, but it's to help them keep it tidy, because all of the stuff that's all over the floor is a pet hate for me on this game. Pretty sure I made that very clear on the first season, and as such, this is how I resolve it. So they don't usually have to be about more than, what, 10, 12 blocks away from a storage thing to put them away. And when you get these moments where there's nothing for them to do and they're just chillaxing, it is set that they then all tidy up. Oxygen's looking good. The building's still lacking a bit. The carbon dioxide is getting stuck at the bottom. Temperatures are good for where we are at. And I just need to make sure I don't burst into somewhere that's too warm or cold. This likely is where we're going to do the spine, but over 2 blocks, so I'm not going through that. So yeah, there we go. This is likely where the spine's going to be. And then all it does is follows the height of the base. And at one point, I'm not sure where yet, but I'll put in the infrastructure for the actual power line and then the main power cable. And then from there, just a load of transformers to bring that power into the base for floor by floor. Okay, so this is where I've pulled the trigger now on the water tank, and it is indeed going to be here in the centre. The more I dig down, the more of that to the right will fall in, but I'm not going to get all of it, because it's always messy, right? It always seems to be. The idea is that it's going to use 3 floors, I believe, but it will still match the tiles, so where each floor is 4 deep, the buildings along the side will still match. So again, very blocky, very Lego-like, but very Minecraft-like, I suppose, in terms of everything's nice and even across and all the way down, symmetrical. And then depending on what we build into, we'll change things, but at the minute we've got the clean water one that's important. After that we need a dirty water, which we aren't surrounded by a dirty water or polluted water puddle, so I'll just make that wherever I want, and then using the plumbing I'll dump that in there. We're getting there. You can see now that is the full setup for that water tank. It does need a top, but I'm not going to allow it to overflow anyway, so that shouldn't be a problem. And then that bit on the side is going to be ignored for now until I can get it mopped up by spreading out the area, because the wider I spread that, the thinner the water becomes, and then you can mop it up. For now, though, I need to drop the actual storage chest in there. And as soon as it's in the water, it will then not off gas. You can see just there it off gas some polluted oxygen. That's no good. We need to drop it into the water and it will stop that happening. You don't have to fully submerge it. If the bottom half is in water at all, it will stop the whole thing. I know that's not legitimate, but it works. So I've just redone the priorities for the duplicants to make sure that somebody is running on that treadmill all the time. That is our oxygen source, and to be honest, that is priority 1. left-hand side, you can see they have dug the very singular ladder to where the spine is going to be. And then we just need to widen that because it has to be 3 blocks wide to work in most cases. Also, I can see from here Abe has a cold, but I'm sure he'll be fine. There is some polluted water trapped up there. I did get them stuck on that platform, unfortunately, due to some falling sand. So they did wet themselves. But we'll get that cleared up quite quickly, and then we'll get back down to here. But I'm going to just give it a few minutes to catch up, and then we'll see what's happening. Okay, so that took a little bit of time, but it's nice and neat. You can see the bottom left-hand corner, we've got the forms going in. The spine is looking nicely. That's widening out. Oh, not down to the bottom yet, but that water is in the way, and I need some sort of machines to move the water before I can do any of that. Apart from the oxygen side, as you can see, it's a little bit lapsing, but we can fix that no problem. That is, I would say, good enough for the first episode for now. So thank you very much for watching. If you like the video, please click like. It does help me figure out what games to play and others find it. Comments are welcome. Let me know if you want me to make any changes or name any of the duplicants after yourselves, though I can't promise I'll keep them alive. Again, thank you very much. Take care. Goodbye.